Everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So a little different. The start of this video is here in my office, which you rarely see me in. But I wanted to talk about something that I'm going to be doing a lot more of, and that's kind of top 5 videos of ways to save money, of things that are quintessentially British, things that you can expect when traveling in different countries, and just a little bit more information, more than just the simple, hey, I'm in this country, this is what you can expect here. I want to give you those bits and pieces a little bit extra on top of my normal vlogging videos that I put up on the channel, just something a little bit more so it can help you when you're traveling, or potentially just before you get away, so you know what to expect from different cultures, different places, and everything in between. But of course, the easiest one for me to start with is things that are quintessentially British, things that you can expect when you come over here. Now, I'll be more specific than that. As you can potentially tell from my accent, I am very much English. So let's go with quintessentially English things that you can expect if you're coming to the UK. Now, much as many people will think, if you're coming to England, if you're coming to London, you've got to have the afternoon tea. That's the most English thing possible. And whilst it is part of English culture, it isn't part of really everyone's English culture. It's not something that everyone does every lunchtime, as I see in many films and TV shows. It isn't something that I would say is the most English thing you can expect, and it's certainly not the food that I would suggest going for if you're coming over here. Instead, I would go for a roast. Now, this is something we're well known for, especially in Europe as well. We're well known for our beef and for our Sunday roasts. So a traditional English roast is typically features roasted meat, obviously, which is beef, lamb or chicken, roast potatoes, vegetables, Yorkshire puddings, which some of you may have heard of, some of you may not. It's effectively a pancake batter that is baked in the oven to give you a kind of upside down dome that you can then put other things into. It is in effect a kind of bread. And then, of course, a gravy. And this is definitely, if you're doing it properly, a real gravy made with the leftovers of the meat and the veg that have actually been cooked. Now, the Sunday roast is just part of English culture. It is rooted in what you do on a Sunday. Much of England is obviously known as a Christian country. We have our monarch as the head of the Church of England. And myself, when I was growing up, and for a lot of people, you'd put the roast on in the mornings, you'd go off to church, and then you'd come back and have the roast as a family. It's generally for a lot of people, a lunchtime meal, not actually in the evening. Although for some it is for a lot of people a lunchtime meal. It may be the one where you go back and hang out with family. Much like barbecues and things like that have that in America and various other places. For the Sunday roast, it is something that you'd kind of get round with the family. And it is absolutely a quintessential part of English life.
Another important part of English culture, and something that's more uniquely English, is the gardens and green spaces. Now, of course, there are other places around the world that have magnificent gardens, magnificent green spaces, from France to the US to Australia and more. But something that's very much in the kind of English culture is to have that green space, to have that garden where maybe you grow your own potatoes and tomatoes, or you have amazingly meticulously kept plants, whether it's the royal gardens of Hampton Park or Kew Gardens, or just having your own allotment somewhere where you grow those fruits and veg, or you simply look after some amazing plants. The garden and green space for the British is something that we hold very, very dear. And I have to say, it's even written into law, the protection of a lot of our green spaces, so that we don't just become some kind of a concrete jungle. Another thing that seems to be uniquely British is the idea of royal ceremonies and traditions. So with this, obviously, there are a lot of countries that still have a royal family, and there's still ceremonies along with it, but the changing of the guard, the tripping of the colour, and a lot more things beside.
These are all ceremonies and traditions that still ring true in the UK. And whilst many of us would like to think that we're not quite as pomp and circumstance as potentially we once were, to the outside world, this is definitely something that stands out as being very uniquely from the UK. You will be able to find similar changes in the guards and things like that around in areas of Northern Europe where there are still parts of the monarchy that exist. However, the way it is done in the UK and the way that we show it to the world is definitely something that rings true to anyone visiting the UK for the first time.
Another of the most uniquely British things is our pub culture here. Now, I know that sounds strange. Everywhere has pubs, everywhere has bars. Why is it so different in the UK? Or you're on the other side and just thinking, well, yeah, every time I see the UK, England, and everything like that, you're always just drinking. It's Friday night. However, it goes far beyond just the actual idea of drinking over here. It's a community hub for us. A lot of the time, if you go into a pub, you'll find that the history of that pub is actually 200, 300, 400 years old. It used to be somewhere that people would stay and lock up their horses when they're on a pilgrimage to somewhere further along the road. You find it a lot of the time now that it's somewhere where older people will hang out and have their luncheon meetings and just be able to see their friend Mabel down the road. It is something that is very much at the heart of the community in England now. A lot of times you would have things like this would be in a bingo hall or something like that, but for England it definitely does seem to be the local pub. You'll never really go beyond a small village that has a pub where everyone meets up on a specific day of the week, and actually a lot of the times you have community-led pubs. When a lot of pubs closed down after the smoking ban in the UK, you did have a lot of uprising from communities, small communities in villages and small towns that actually took over the bars so that they could be somewhere that they hung out. So the pub culture in the UK kind of has two or three sides to it. Yes, you have the very high drinking culture here. People do drink at a younger age than a lot of places, and yes, of course, you do have the kind of louts and hooligans that you see on YouTube and the news. But there is a big community side to it. You can, of course, go along and get some ale, get some cider, and get your lunch and even your breakfast in some places. But you'll also know the name of everyone behind the bar. You'll probably know the name of two or three others that are in the corner. There may be a dominoes game going on from some of the people that have been there for a while, and it really is a hub for so many people.
Something else about the UK is our architecture and statues. Now, obviously, many countries have one or two incredibly well-known items in their country. Statue of Liberty in the US, the Valley of Petra in Jordan, and so on. But if you think of the UK, Nelson's Column, the London Eye, Westminster Abbey, the Tower of London, Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, and so on,
are all items that are so well known around the world. Not even going on to then mention things like Stonehenge, which of course then has mystery around it. So it's something that the UK does so well and so consistently, is that we have these statues, this architecture that just rings out as being very uniquely British. Now, obviously, this is subjective, and from my experiences as well as being someone from the UK, but maybe there's some that I've left out that you specifically, as someone not from the UK, coming over here, noticed as really uniquely British, something that we do, that we say, the way we act, something we eat, that you're just like, what on earth is that? And that's really stuck out for you as something that, you know, people should know, or is just uniquely British. Or maybe you're someone from a different part of the UK. Maybe you're someone from the Midlands or the North that's just going, this Southerner doesn't know about something that we have specific here. So maybe you have something that you'd like to add as well. Let us know in the comments below what you think I might have missed out, or do you agree in the ones that I've put there? And I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you again next time.